Hi, this is Brian with Brian Wants Your Help, and this is how and why I buy Tesla stock number 13. How I buy it is I buy it through Charles Schwab, and they have a thing called stock slices where you can buy less than a share of stock. Started buying at $50 a share, and each paycheck I went up $1, and I think the last one was $95. So that's 45 paychecks that I've been buying Tesla stock. I think I'm down like $450, but I buy it cost dollar averaging. So at one point it was high as 300, and now it's like in the low 170s. And I think my average price for cost dollar averaging is $204. So I'm up to over 15.5 shares with my wife. And we've lost about $450, but we're buying it for the long term. So trying to get 1,000 shares of Tesla stock and give them to my wife. And we got a little over 15, so we got 984 and some change to go. And the reason I'm buying Tesla stock isn't because of the car company. They've got 6 vehicles, I believe: the S, the X, the Cybertruck, the Model Y, the Model 3, and the Tesla Semi. They've just broken ground on mass production plant for the Tesla Semi, so I think in the next few years you'll start to see those trickle out. I think the Cybertruck's finally starting to ramp up a little bit, as they've, with any production, you got to get the details right. And I think they're going to probably refresh the Model Y, which last year was the best-selling car in the world. And I think that refresh will start later this year and in China. I also buy Tesla because I believe they have a better manufacturing program. They've taken about 30% of what it takes to produce a gas car, which they call an ICE car, an internal combustion engine car, and produce that by not only creating a better assembly line, but a more efficient. Tesla's belief is the best part is no part. So by not having an internal combustion engine, you've reduced tons and tons of parts, thousands. But also, they do gigacasting of the body, so you're not having to rivet this together and weld that together and this and that. So it not only creates efficiency, but it also creates safety. I think the top 4 out of the top 5, or 4 out of the top 5 safest cars are Teslas on the road. It might even be 5 out of the top 5. I saw just with their autopilot program in Teslas, which is not their newest version of the FSD, where you have to supervise the car. There's 7 less crashers per Tesla than there are per other cars. Now you have to factor in the average car is about 12.6 years old in America, which is one of the longer times. And part of that is more cars around the world have been built better and they last longer. But also as the price of cars, people are holding on to them longer. I think trucks are 14.6 years is the average truck age, and then smaller vehicles, or I think SUVs or something are less than that, but 12.6. But I saw it where they were talking about the Tesla engine, the battery, is only loses 15% of its capacity after 200,000 miles, which is about when you start to have problems with your ICE car or your gasoline car. 250,000 is usually what they last before some major problem happens with them. Now there's other cars that like Volvos that have gone 1 million miles, and there's exceptions to that. Very well built Toyotas can go further. in gasoline cars, but to have 85% battery capacity after 200,000 miles is outstanding, and to have 30% lower manufacturing costs because of efficiencies and having fewer parts. On the Cybertruck, they did a wiring, instead of the wiring harnesses that go in gas cars, they did a drive-by wire for the steering wheel, and then they have a, I'm forgetting the term right now, but a 48 volt system that runs all the electronics in the car. That takes out so much of the weight and so much of the cost just on that portion of it. But Tesla, like I said, is not a car company, is not what I'm buying. I'm buying an AI company. They have over 6 billion cars on the road, and all of them are equipped with cameras collecting data that are going into the AI computers. If you follow them closely, you know they bought a bunch of NVIDIA computers, and they're no longer compute constrained. So they have all these billions of miles driven on camera collecting data that have made the cars learn how to drive and understand the rules of the road just by learning like humans do with their eyes and experience. I think version 12.4 is getting ready to come out. I think it's been released and to the employees and now going to be released to some in public. But the way it works is most of the miles that they record are useless recording. What they want to do is when you have to intervene because it's supervised full self-driving and you have to grab the steering wheel and do something, those are the things that they're recording and getting information on. And every time they improve 12.4, 12.5, they're getting magnitudes better, but also many, many more miles have to be driven because there's fewer and fewer incidents that the car doesn't know about to make it safe. But eventually they'll have a robotaxi fleet to where the car can be ran as long as it wants. There will be less cars on the road. I mean, between chargings. So it could go, besides when it's being charged, it could go, and people won't have to own cars because you can just dial up a Tesla and it'll show up to your place and take you where you want to go and then take you home with no driver. So you take a lot of the costs out of a taxi or an Uber. So it'll be a more efficient way to drive and fewer people will need to have cars. So in urban markets like New York City that are packed where people don't even have a place to park, you have to pay so much. It's like paying rent to park your car. So all the urban areas like Chicago, Detroit, New York, Miami, that'll be great. And then also people that live in apartment buildings that don't maybe have as much opportunities to plug in their Teslas in their garage at night. Those robotaxis can pick them up, take them to work, pick them up from work and take them home. And they don't have to pay auto insurance or maintenance or anything. They just pay for the driving of the vehicle. If you do want to own your own vehicle and you want to drive it, you can drive it once it goes full FSD, as long as they leave the steering wheel in. But if you have a house, you can plug it into your garage. My wife and I recently added a new roof and we decided to add solar at the same time. And the solar pays for our gas bill and our electric bill 9 months out of the year or 8 months out of the year. And also the way our county is set up, it sells the electricity back to the power company and goes right into my next door neighbor's house. And it goes towards our bill for the winter months that are not producing enough sunlight. We live in Washington State, which is known for the rain, so I'm not talking California. I think California year-round, I think your solar panels will pay for your house electrical, depending on the size of your house and the usage that you have. But what I'm trying to say there is energy is a very important part of why I buy Tesla as well. They have the mega packs that are fit on the back of a semi-trailer. And they put these mega packs, and I think in Australia and a few different areas, full cities are run by solar and mega packs. The mega packs are big batteries that can store the energy from the solar and the wind and feed the town the electricity. Also, I think you're going to see a lot of cities have rooftop solar and megapacks in the basement and be able to take a lot of energy off the grid. I know in California there were certain times in the last few months that wind, solar, and hydropower were able to power everything when connected to Megapack in just brief few minutes, but it never happened before. So maybe it was 4 or 5 minutes that they didn't need any traditional coal mines or natural gas or any other type of energy besides renewable. Now, I'm a Republican, and it would sound funny. People think, oh, you want dirty air and dirty water. I don't want that. I want solar panels and getting electricity from the biggest battery in our universe, or in our solar system, which is the sun, feeding my house with electricity. And I don't have a Tesla yet, but my wife's going to buy me a Cybertruck when she gets enough money. And she made a face at me, but that's the plan. Is I want to get a Cybertruck a few years down the road. And because she has a beautiful truck and I have a crummy little car, but it's good for beating up in the profession that I do. So they have the Megapacks, and then they have the power walls to fit in your garage. And the power wall will also take the solar energy. Instead of giving it to my neighbor, it'll store in the power wall and allow me to charge my Teslas. And but it'll also, if the power does go out, you know, those nights you got to break out the candles. It's kind of fun sometimes. You break a little, did you lose your power, that kind of thing. And but we won't have that situation because the power pack power wall will just automatically kick back on with the use of our generator and make sure that we have power. And so their mission is sustainable energy. And so I don't know if you heard a few years back in Texas, but Texas, even though it's a Republican state, it really pushed for wind and solar. They have such massive land and such opportunity to capture solar and wind. But they had a total freeze at an unexpected time, and they lost power. And I think people even died because they didn't have power and it was so cold. And now everybody's saying that's the death knell in solar panels and wind power. But now that the Megapacks have been created, and Tesla's not the only company that makes them, that's just the name of theirs, they can store that wind and solar in the batteries so that when there is a power outage like that, cold, where the turbines have frozen and the sun's not shining to create solar power, they can use the energy from the Megapacks to keep people warm in the winter or cool in the summer if you live in Arizona, someplace over 100 degrees, Las Vegas. So I think that's another important part of it. But the AI, the cars that are out on the road, the over 6 million cars, have the cameras feeding information, and that's artificial intelligence, and it's learning from itself. They're not coding, hey, this is a stop sign, writing a code, you need to stop. It's just learning from the best drivers of the best drivers. So each driver in the Tesla cars that is the safest driver, they're using their information to create a safe driving vehicle. There's a little country in Eastern Europe called Moldova. They speak Romanian there and Russian. They're right next to Romania and next to Russia. And they took a Tesla over there, and there hadn't been Teslas learning those roads over there. But what they had learned from other European roads, they could drive on the full self-driving in Moldova and not have to intervene very often because the car actually learns how to drive itself. So that's the artificial intelligence that I'm talking about, is the real world artificial intelligence of the roads that they're interested in, that they're learning from, opposed to large language models like ChatBT or BT4 or whatever, and 5's coming soon. Tesla just recently X just got recently $6 billion investment to create on its Grok system a large language models. So they're not competing against others. There's all kinds of different AIs. And Tesla also has humanoid robots, and I think they'll have all different kinds of robots beyond humanoid robots that will be able to do things, and they're learning the same way the cars are learning. They're not learning by being programmed, hey, pick up this plate, don't squeeze it too hard, don't break it, clean it, put it back in the cabinet. This is an example at a restaurant. To have a dishwasher, they are saying they're learning through sight. So they can have eyes on the side of their head, back of their head, front of their head, low, down, up, 360-degree view. Learn from everything and learned how to do things that, and they don't need to sleep other than to be charged. So they can do a lot of work and without a lot of upkeep. And they're going to use the same supply chain to make the, in sense, make the hardware material, the body of the robot and the structure of the robot, as they do the cars. I'm sure there'll be certain things that'll be different suppliers, but in general, it'll be the same suppliers. So there's going to be a whole workforce out there of robots. Eventually, you'll start seeing them working in the factory as their dexterity gets better and repetitive jobs, and keep people from hurting their arms and getting carpal tunnel from doing the same job over and over on the assembly line. Now, granted, people will lose jobs and so forth, but throughout the rise of technology in our world, I mean, just think of all the things that before we had to do by hand. Like, we all had to do different, you know, the way they would make a bridge, or the way they would make a road, or the way they would make anything. You know, they didn't have big rollers, they didn't have asphalt, they didn't have that. They had human beings bringing stones and wheelbarrows and wagons and making the roads for the Romans. And they didn't have cars and dump trucks, and so things that took thousands of people to do maybe take 20 people to do. And so the human beings will adapt, and we won't be replaced by robots. We'll do different industries. Like in California, they're talking about $20 an hour, or they passed it, fast food minimum wage, or just total minimum wage. Well, you all know what's going to happen. It's already starting to happen. You're going to order from a kiosk. You're not going to order from a person. So be only the people cooking the food, and they'll eventually probably figure out how to have fast food cooked without human beings. So there might just be one person there to supervise the place and so forth. But it'll all happen over time. But there's so many different avenues that they're in. They're also getting into the insurance market, because I believe the insurance will be a lot less because human drivers taken out of the equation. If you end up having one accident per 100 accidents that you used to have, because human beings are unreliable. I smoke, so I'm smoking in the car. I got a coffee in one hand. Somebody calls on the phone, I touch the screen, where I used to have to hold the cell phone. And so I'm talking to somebody, I'm drinking this coffee, I'm smoking a cigarette. I'm a human being, I'm driving a car that could kill myself or somebody else. Insurance rates are going to go down, so they're going to insure people. They just did a short-term recent financing where I think they gave less, like 0.99% interest rate on Model Ys till the end of this month. And they sold a lot more Model Ys, because you know the interest rates are like 6%, 7% for vehicles right now because of inflation. So, and there's many, many more things that they're doing. And the fact that he owns SpaceX helped, their technology helps Tesla. The fact that he owns X at Elon Musk, their technologies, all three companies help each other. The Boring Company that he's boring, and he's already got some in Las Vegas and some at one of his factories where they're doing it. Where you'll be able to, the reason the roads are congested is you're driving on a flat plane. I don't believe the earth is flat, it's round, but the road is flat as we see it. And but if you can drive in tunnels and not go from one destination to another, it'll not only be safer, but it'll be You could put 10 tunnels on top of each other by 100 tunnels wide and get rid of all the traffic, so that you're not going to spend an hour and a half on a drive that should only take 40 minutes because you're back to back in cars. And also, the full self-driving, you can engage the full self-driving when you're in a traffic jam, and it'll maximize it. And the more vehicles like that that get on the road, you don't have the people being less efficient, and it'll cut down on the traffic because you don't have the human mind not making good decisions. The cars will stay far enough apart but close enough together and move in unison, and traffic will get worse. But the main reason is there'll be less cars because people won't need the cars. Why do you want to pay car insurance? Why do you want to pay maintenance and so forth? The average Tesla is now the average price of an ICE vehicle, which is an internal combustion engine or a gas vehicle. So, but you don't have to buy the gas. You do have to put the electricity in, so you have to pay some. And with the government rebate, which I think is currently $7,500 off the sticker price, it's actually cheaper than the average car to own a Tesla Model Y or Model 3. And the performance is better, the braking is better. And they do have regenerative braking. What that means is you actually charge the battery when you put the brakes on. So if you're in a hilly area like San Francisco, half the time you're using the battery going up the hill, and the other times when you're braking, you're charging your car. I know it's unbelievable, but it's true, and that's how it's going right now. So there's tons of good reasons, and there's a lot happening. I think they're getting closer and closer to the full self-driving, and I think you'll just see the world change. So we want to get as much shares as possible. I actually like the fact that we've lost money because that means the stock is lower, and we can buy more every time I get paid and get more shares, and eventually our cost dollar averaging, because it was 230 a few months back, and now it's 204, and Tesla's at 272. So as long as I keep buying, we'll be making a profit on the vehicles. And as soon as self-driving is in place, he can also license it to Ford or GM or Toyota, and they can use the, not he, but Tesla can license it, and they can pay a fee to use the full self-driving, and they can own this full self-driving and make money that way. So it's really a money printing machine in my sense. I think there's a lot of Tesla haters because people don't like Elon Musk because he is a public figure, a celebrity, one of the richest men in the world, and he speaks his mind. But the guy that's sending out rockets off cheaper and faster and more frequently has connected Starlink so that everybody in the world can have internet, no matter how poor you are, and owns a boring company making tunnels where you can drive your cars underground to avoid traffic, and then has X, which was formerly Twitter, but it's not just a typing in program anymore. You can make long form videos, you can make everything that you can do on Facebook and on Google, I think will eventually be able to be done on X, and I think they're going to go beyond that. So that was one of his first passions. I don't know if you guys know, but Elon Musk used to own, what is that, PayPal. He was one of the founders of PayPal, and that's how he sold all his PayPal shares, and he wanted to call it X, the way to be like a bank, and so he always kept the name X. So when he bought Twitter, he changed it to X, and he has big plans for X beyond just being a social media site. But the guy that's done all of that in one lifetime, when I can barely mow the front yard and the backyard in the same day, I'm putting my money on him. So big 15 shares, so I'm sure he's really thanking me as he goes to sleep. But what I'm trying to do is the best thing for my family, and invest in it every paycheck consistently over time, follow the news on it, make sure I'm on top of it, that it's still a disruptive technology that's going to change the world. And hopefully make enough money that if I pass away, my wife has security till she finds a better man than me, which won't be hard. Thank you for your help. This Brian wants your help, and this is why and how I buy Tesla stock number 13. Have a good evening.